The New York Times just released an op-ed. The America's Constitution is sacred. But is it also the biggest threat to our politics? Bum, bum, bum! Yes, it actually is a threat to our politics. Yes, as it should be a threat to our politics. The United States Constitution is in trouble after Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Really? Is that when it became in trouble, Stu? I'm thinking back, a little bit before Donald Trump, like, I don't know, Woodrow Wilson. And I've been thinking the Constitution's been in trouble since about then. Maybe it's just me?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it was a little bit earlier, considering, the words of Woodrow Wilson, who tried to basically do to the founding documents what happened to that neighbor's mountain. Like, just light it on fire and watch it burn.
Yeah. I mean, that was it. By announcing his desire to throw off constitutional constraints in order to satisfy his personal ambitions, Trump was making his authoritarian inclinations abundantly clear. Now, let me ask you, who is the one that is currently talking about the redesign of the Supreme Court? I mean, by the way, I just want you to know, that's what dictators always do. That is the last step to a banana republic. That is the point of no return when you have the president or the prime minister or whoever change the makeup of the Supreme Court. That's the last straw. Now, which one of those is doing that?
Glenn, we're just talking about a return to normalcy. That's all that is. That whole renovating the Supreme Court into something that has never existed is a return to normalcy.
Yeah. May I ask you, Stu, isn't this exactly the same thing they did with Joe Biden? They ran him, and he didn't talk to the press. He never was in front of people. He was in his basement. When he was out, he was always on prompter. And then they just made the case that he was normal. He was just like you. He was for all the things you were for, just a return to normalcy. That's exactly what they're doing again. America, come on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, of course. And, Glenn, it's important to understand this return to normalcy just pervades this throughout the entire campaign. Like, for example, the return to normalcy of having debates that are go through the Presidential Commission on Debates. Remember that whole thing? That's now basically defunct because the President of the United States decided he was going to be cocky and cancel one of the debates, leave the normal format, and then taunt his opponent about it and lose so badly that he had to end his political career. And then the person who took over for them not only didn't go back to the commission and say, hey, let's start this up again. Let's do 3 of these things. No. She just had the one that was already there and then tried to change the rules of that and then also taunted her opponent in the debate. Let's see if she shows up, because that would be, I think, the most normal thing possible.
Yeah, well, you forgot the most normal part of that story, and that is getting the nomination without a single vote cast for her.
Normal. It's normal,
totally
guys.
Normal. Constitutional. And totally normal, and really what people are demanding. Anyway, it's no surprise then that liberals charge Trump with being a menace to the Constitution, but his presidency and the prospect of his reelection have also generated another very different argument, that Trump owes his political assent to the Constitution, making him a beneficiary of a document that is essentially anti-democratic. Wait. You say we're a democracy, okay? You said we've always been a democracy. What would make us a democracy would be the Constitution. But we're not a democracy. The Constitution says we have democratic attributes, but we are a republic. And now you're calling this an anti-democratic document? Well, I mean, after all, Trump became president in 2016 after losing the popular vote but winning the Electoral College. Oh my gosh. You're not going to believe this, Stu. He appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court, Article 3, 2 of whom were just confirmed by senators representing 44% of the population. Article 1, whose 3 justices helped overturn Roe versus Wade, a reversal that most Americans disagreed with. Eminent legal scholar Edwin Chemerinsky. Yes, I love Erwin Chemerinsky. They put him in place a long time ago. He is great. He's an eminent scholar, and he's worried about opinion polls showing a dramatic loss of faith in democracy. There's never been any faith in democracy. He writes in his new book, No Democracy Lasts Forever. No, in fact, that's why we're not a democracy, and that's why our Constitution has lasted. When the average Constitution of the world lasts 17 years, ours has survived since 1781. I don't know, a little longer than 17 years. Anyway, no democracy lasts forever. It's important for Americans to see that the failure stems from the Constitution itself. Oh, really? Yes, Mr. Chemerinsky, Dean of Berkeley Law School. He's yeah.
That's Kamala Harris's hometown, by the way. Just want to point that out. It's not Oakland.
No, it's Oakland. She told me it was Oakland.
I know she's a daughter of Oakland, but actually she grew up in Berkeley and Montreal and then went to Howard University and then went to San Francisco. So that you want to talk about a path to the normal middle.
White, and blue. She's red, white, and blue person. She screams Constitution in small town America from Berkeley, California.
Just a heavy emphasis on the red.
So... What are you saying? Red, white, and blue. That's who she is? Red, white, and blue. Yes, she's all American. Anyway, he says Americans have a problem with the Constitution. And Chemerinsky, dean of Berkeley Political Law School, seemed to place considerable faith in Constitution, pleading with federal progressives in this book, We the People, not to turn backs on Constitution or the courts, but by contrast, no democracy lasts forever, markedly pessimistic, asserting that the Constitution, which is famously difficult to amend, it's difficult to amend? Those should be walk-in park. We should be able to, like Mama makes apple pie. When she makes that apple pie, she puts it on shelf and some neighbor can come and just get it. I see it in American cartoons. And it should be that easy to amend Constitution. But it's not. It's very difficult. And he says what would need to happen is a new constitutional convention. And in the book's more somber moments, which I wrote, I entertain possibility of secession. Vladimir Putin not for secession at all. No, he loves the Constitution of the United States, and West Coast states might form a nation called Pacifica. Red states might form their own country, but he hopes that any divorce, if it comes, will be peaceful. Oh. Okay, so later, hang on just a second. So this guy's from Berkeley, and he's talking about Pacifica. Where have I heard this before? Where did I hear this before? I remember, do you remember before the 2020 election, Stu, the Democrats had some group together that was going to save America, remember, in case Donald Trump won. And one of the things they said was, we will have California break up West Coast into Pacifica, California, parts of Oregon, maybe parts of Washington State would become Pacifica, and that we would break away. And if they didn't want us to break away, then we demand that Trump add 2 states. One would be Washington, D.C., and the other one would be make a state out of Puerto Rico. Oh, I remember that now. Gee. And what was their problem? Oh, their problem was the Electoral College, which is weird because he just mentioned the Electoral College. The prospect of secession sounds extreme, he says, but in suggesting that the Constitution could hasten the end of American democracy, Chemerinsky is far from alone. Lots of people. I've got Boris and Natasha say same thing. The argument that what ails the country's politics isn't simply the president or Congress or the Supreme Court, but the founding document itself. Right? That's been our problem for the last 250 years. The longest running constitution in the longest running republic in human history. And that's our problem. All along, that's our problem. Mm-hmm.
It's not like we haven't had a good run of success here. It would be one thing if there was an area of outer Mongolia that the entire United States looked like, and we were a little disappointed in the progress we had made. But it's kind of the most advanced country ever, developed. It's overseen this incredible, all these incredible innovations. Yeah, go ahead.
Have you looked at Aurora, Colorado? That's the Constitution's fault.
Oh, when the Venezuelans are taking over the apartment complexes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's how is that
Constitution's fault.
Why would
How's that Constitution?
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
That's a good point, but you didn't quite. Maybe you need to go a little bit more into depth on why the words Donald Trump.
I'm not going to listen to you conspiracy theorists anymore, really, honestly. Man, I'm just looking at this. He says that the Constitution has incentivized the tyranny of the minority. It's the Constitution's fault. You see? Now, if I remember right, one of the things they put in there to make sure that there wasn't the tyranny of the minority was the Electoral College. That way, California and New York couldn't dominate everybody in the red states, kind of like what they're doing. And when you talk about tyranny of the minority, Stu, if it wasn't for, it's still a minority, but it's a growing minority. If it wasn't for 30% of all future adults in America now claiming to be transgender and gay and, My Little Pony, you would say maybe this is all happening, with the tyranny of the minority. But no.
Well, that minority is okay. And as we have talked about many, many times, 30 to 40% of the population being the LGBTQ population is the return to normalcy we were promised with Joe Biden.
Yes.
And Kamala Harris.
Yes.
This is everything about
normal.
This is normal. Everything is
normal. Now, they always say that they love the Constitution, but now they fear the Constitution, and they should. Somebody else feared the Constitution. It was, I think it was, King George. He thought it was a very dangerous document, too. In fact, every dictator all around the world has thought, for the last 250 years, wow, that's a dangerous document. But, hey, the New York Times and the left, they love it. That's why they've just run, is the Constitution sacred, but is it also dangerous? Or this story, the Constitution is broken and should not be reclaimed. Or MAGA turns against the Constitution. Or we had to force the Constitution to accommodate democracy. The Constitution won't save us from Trump. Or the story in the New York Times is the Constitution obstructing the American democracy. Let's give up on the Constitution. Or the headline, the U.S. lacks what every democracy needs. Or this is the story how Lincoln broke the U.S. Constitution. They love it.